Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. Let's turn to Tuesday's primary runoffs in Texas. And the story there is that Governor Greg Abbott last year tried to push through the State House an education savings account program that would be worth about $10,500 per student, a big school choice program coming to a big conservative state that has fallen behind, frankly, its peers, Florida, Arizona, and so forth. But it was blocked, and it was blocked in a Republican state house. 21 House Republicans voted no on Abbott's proposal. He tried to call 2 special sessions to get it through and was not successful. And Governor Abbott responded by trying to oust these Republicans who voted against his school choice plan. 16 of those 21 ran for re-election, and in the state's primary earlier this year, 10 of those 21 seats flipped to candidates that support school choice. There was another group that went to runoffs, and on Tuesday, Monet, 6 of those seats again flipped Governor Abbott's direction. Here's what he is saying. The Texas legislature now has enough votes to pass school choice. While we did not win every race we fought in, the overall message from this year's primaries is clear. Texans want school choice. Opponents of school choice can no longer ignore the will of the people. And Monet, to me, that seems like a highly significant moment for a few reasons. One is that the argument for many of these lawmakers who were opposed to Abbott's plan was, I represent a rural area and we don't have many school alternatives in my district. And the local school is the local public school is a focal point of community life. And this is not what my constituents want. And my response to that, I think the response of school choice advocates is part of the reason that there are not those alternatives in many of these districts is that it's very expensive to send your kid to a school alternative, a private school, a learning pod or something like that, and also pay the taxes for the upkeep of the local public school. And so the idea of these education savings accounts and other school choice programs is to let that public money follow the student and let the parents and the families make the choices that they think are best for them. And it seems to me that in the outcomes of these elections that Governor Abbott has fought against lawmakers from his own party, many voters are siding with him on that and saying, as the governor says, yes, we do want school choice, even if our district might be a rural one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing to remember is that the key word in school choice is choice. And if, as these rural Republicans claim, parents in their districts are deeply satisfied with the quality of the public schools and their hubs for those communities, then parents can continue to choose to keep their kids in those schools, regardless of whether students in other parts of the state have the opportunity to find different ones. And I think that that's exactly what we'll see. A lot of the poorest performing and most heavily disliked schools in Texas or anywhere are in more urban areas. And those are the places that are most deeply in need of alternatives and where we're likely to see a quicker and more robust flourishing of alternative schools now that state policy is going to encourage that, hopefully, through the provision of education savings accounts. But I do think that you will also see choice start to flourish in some of the far-flung rural areas, and parents who are looking for that will be able to choose it. But it's a huge victory for Greg Abbott, and I think that he should be cheered for deploying this strategy of saying this is something that our voters want and this is something that parents in our state need. And if you're going to stand in the way of this policy, I'm going to find someone who will challenge you. And he has seen that through by deploying a lot of time and a lot of money to back candidates who are in favor of school choice. Texas, of course, is the second most populous state in the country. And for them to have a robust school choice program, I think is going to have an extremely important ripple effect in just about every Republican-controlled state in the country that hasn't already moved on school choice. I expect will be starting to within the next few election cycles. And it's going to help millions and millions of children to be able to afford better education. So this is exactly the type of political result that people go into office for in the first place, trying to expand opportunity for kids who need it.
There might also be a ripple effect simply from the fact that Governor Abbott's strategy of backing primary challengers was vindicated here. And we should note that he is not the first Republican governor to do this. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds did the same sort of thing in 2022. She was trying to get school choice through. She backed some primary challengers and ousted some of the Republican opponents of her proposal. And then the proposal for universal school choice went through the Iowa legislature. And to have a second data point, a second state, very different demographics, very different size and so forth, vindicates, I think, that approach by Republican governors who want to make some real change. And that alone could also send a signal to other Republican lawmakers in other states, other governors, that this is a viable strategy. And if you are a Republican governor who is trying to get some kind of school choice measure through a recalcitrant legislature, that this is one thing that can work. And on the other side, if you are a Republican lawmaker who is on the fence about supporting this school choice program, Monet, if you've watched what happened in Iowa in 2022, and then you've watched what happened in Texas in 2024, when you go meet with your governor, and when your governor says, I really want this school choice program, this is important for our state, this is important for our competitiveness, this is important for families, this is important for children, and if you don't help me do it, then I may think about backing a primary challenger to you. It gives some more teeth to that threat in a way that may help these programs go through other states, though those states may be nothing like Iowa or nothing like Texas.
Yes, I think that's true. And I think a key part of why we've seen these intra-party fights on this issue is that school choice just doesn't really have very many solid practical arguments against it. If you embrace conservative principle of choice and embrace the principle of wanting people to be able to pursue a better education, this is a way to do that that's fiscally responsible. You aren't increasing education spending on net. You're merely allowing it to follow the student and go to the most viable places where parents think their kids are going to get the best education. It's proven. There's been data for over a decade now showing that a lot of these low-cost private schools, that charter schools and things like that, alternative forms of schooling, do outperform traditional public schools in terms of the scores. Just about every piece of evidence seems to line up in its favor. And so it's something that governors who are in favor of school choice are willing to really stake their credibility on. You know, if you're standing in the way of this policy that is popular, that is effective, that goes to a core desire of our constituents, then I'm going to put up the money and the political capital to remove you from office and remove you from being an obstacle to this policy because it's such a no-brainer and because it's so increasingly popular. And so I do think that there are going to be some opponents of school choice who are going to rethink that when they see that this has played out the same way in multiple states now. And I do think that there are going to be some Republican governors in the country who are going to accelerate their timeline for trying to push through a big education savings account legislation.
Thank you, Monet, and thank you all for listening. You can email us at pwpodcast@wsj.com. If you like the show, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Potomac Watch.